Welcome to episode 33 of the Dual Boot Diaries, PCWorld's weekly podcast, where two longtime Windows users learn to use Linux daily. I am one of your hosts, Adam Patrick Murray.
I'm your other host, Will Smith, and we are not Linux experts. We're just guys out here using the OS, figuring it out as we go, and at the end of this, we're going to just fire our computers into the sun. We're going to go live in the woods.
Oh, okay. Both partitions. Wow. Okay.
Zero partitions. That's how many are we going to end up with at the end of this?
Wait, you held up two.
Well, I was minusing two. So,
okay.
Yeah,
so two
like,
minus two
minus
equals 0.
two. I don't know. I've got to be careful with hand gestures over here, PCWorld. You all are sensitive to this stuff.
Please. Well, we got a big show today. I have done an amazing milestone that I'm very excited to tell you about. Before we do that, there was a little piece of news that I think pertains to our little universe.
Yeah,
and I think it's worth talking about. So there's a link down in the description for an article written by one Hassam over at Tom's Hardware. Mm-hmm. The headline reads, "Valve engineer shocks the Linux community with game-changing VRAM hack for 8GB GPUs. Breakthrough solution turbocharges gaming by prioritizing VRAM for games while background tasks take a back seat."
That's a really long headline.
That is a really long headline.
Wow.
So yeah, essentially the Linux community is shocked. Are you shocked by this?
I guess I do have 8 GB cards in my handheld, but other than that, I'm not that shocked.
I mean, what else is going to have 8 gigabytes of VRAM?
My understanding
is coming out at some point.
My understanding is that 8 gig machines are a waste of sand. That's what I've been told.
Right.
The internet has said that for years. But no, this is interesting. So I didn't realize this, but apparently Linux doesn't understand that some tasks are more important than others, or maybe it's bad at determining that. So it was dumping video game stuff out of VRAM while you were playing a full screen game in favor of background Windows or Linux Windows, I guess technically.
Well, and
is that the gist?
This is, yeah. Well, and this is obviously around SteamOS. Valve is doing the work there, kind of thing. So, yeah, it has a new what did they call it? It was something to prioritize the graphics to make sure that it keeps the thing that is full screen or in focus as the main thing, and then have background tasks get shuttled off to slower system memory. I mean, number one, I guess I'm a little confused because I thought that's what GameScope was doing anyway. Isn't, like, when it goes into that full screen experience, isn't already kind of prioritizing gaming versus other tasks?
Yeah, but GameScope is serving. Okay, I'm gonna get this wrong because I always do, but I think it's some. You remember we talked about that stack of things that draw things in Linux, and it's like starts with like the window manager and the compositor and goes up to the compositor and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. GameScope replaces the KDE Plasma portion of that on the SteamOS side. When you're in the Steam UI on like a Steam Deck, you're seeing GameScope is doing the drawing stuff. Mm-hmm. When you're playing games on KDE Plasma is doing that. Plasma is determining what gets priority and what doesn't. And that passes that on to Wayland or X or whatever you're using behind that. So my understanding is that this is for desktop users, not Steam. Like it would work on a Steam Deck if you're using desktop mode, but on game mode, you don't necessarily need this. Like this is already taken care of.
Like when I first saw that, I was like, oh, okay, well, obviously I think they're doing something for the Steam machine, right? Yeah. And you would assume that's the work that Valve is doing because of the Steam machine has 8 gigabytes of VRAM that's dedicated to it. And yeah, I was confused because they show a couple examples of, a memory usage, some sort of memory usage thing. And like in there was Discord, and like Chromium and stuff like that. And I was like, wait, Discord and Chromium like shouldn't be loaded in VRAM anyway while you're in GameScope. But yeah, okay, that makes more sense now. So this is work they're doing on the desktop side of it. So if you're not running in full screen experience, which actually they did kind of show off that use case in the reveal of the Steam machine where they're like, oh hey, you can use this just like a normal desktop, so I guess in my mind I always thought, well, if you're going to game, then you're just going to run in GameScope mode, but I mean a lot of people don't do that, so I guess this makes sense.
Natalie Vaughn is the engineer at Valve who came up with this, and they posted on their blog at pixelcluster.github.io like a full detail. It's actually linked in the Tom's article. And you can try it now. Like if you're on an Arch-based distro, I think Kashi has the kernel. Like basically, you have to install some kernel patches, like 6 kernel patches, and then you install a couple of tools called DMEMCG-booster and plasma-foreground-booster. And those will do the like they're in the AUR, they're available. You can just install them and give them a try. It seems like if you don't use KDE, you can just use newer versions of GameScope to launch your games and you get the same benefit if you have that DMEMCG booster utility installed. So it's kind of interesting. I'm curious if there's any benefit on cards with more than 8 gigs of RAM. I bet. I assume this only is going to impact if you run out of RAM, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, and this is like even Hassam points out in this article, there's a paragraph towards the end that says this is more about optimizing VRAM usage than outright reducing it. So yeah. I think that's the other thing is that there's been a lot of talk about games. Hey, do they really need to use that much RAM? Optimization, lazy devs, all that kind of stuff. But in the meantime, the OS needs to be better at prioritizing what gets loaded into VRAM. I don't know. I mean, would you say that that's something that Windows handles good or better than Linux?
I don't actually know. I haven't this VRAM churn is one of those things. Like if you're playing, the classic example is that Indiana Jones game. You can fill the VRAM up on that, and the performance as soon as it pages out to system RAM, when you exceed the available VRAM, the performance goes to like a frame every 3 seconds in that game. It's kind of remarkable. Yeah. So I don't know. Like I think it's going to vary on a game by game basis, but I don't know for sure. Microsoft has done a lot of work over the years to do things like detect when you're running a full screen game and kind of deprioritize background stuff during that. You see that in that Xbox app when it toggles on the game mode stuff, which is a mixed bag, but I think generally a net positive overall. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. It's also worth mentioning this is only for AMD GPUs. The NVIDIA part of the memory controller part of the NVIDIA stack, it lies inside the closed blob. So there's no even on the open source NVIDIA driver, there's no they can't touch this. So don't bother installing this on your NVIDIA machines.
Yeah, which unfortunately, that's when where I first thought of it. I was like, okay, NVIDIA's been getting a lot of flack for especially having 8 gigabytes still in ones that are not even low end anymore. Like a 5060 Ti, I wouldn't consider a low end GPU, but there still is an 8 gig variant, and that definitely holds it back in a lot of cases, especially if you're playing new games. So yeah, I don't know. This still feels weird though too. Is that this is ultimately a band-aid though? Like if the game is using too much VRAM in quotes, like this is trying to maybe mitigate some of those things.
But it's not that the game's using too much VRAM. It's that the OS is prioritizing things that you're not using when you're playing a game full screen, right? So it's that the OS is bringing things back into VRAM that don't need to be in VRAM because they're not actually visible and not being used. And so this is preventing that from happening, which is, I think that's valid. I think one of the things I've learned that I didn't really appreciate was a problem is that Wayland especially is kind of weirdly agnostic about a lot of things. Like, there's no concept of a primary monitor in Wayland proper. Your window your stuff above layer up has to manage that, right? So, like on my machine, I have to manually jump through some hoops to tell Neri, oh yeah, I always want games to launch on this monitor, not on the 1080p monitor up top or the tertiary monitor that's plugged into the capture card. So yeah, like this feels like a good thing to me, but it's, it feels, I'm kind of surprised that they had to do it. Honestly, I think this is one of the reasons that Valve made GameScope to do it for the Steam Deck, is so they wouldn't have to fool with this kind of stuff.
Well, and hey, this you kind of hinted at it too, that the new Xbox full screen experience kind of thing is doing that same thing as well. They're, I didn't see a ton of benefit on the high end ROG Xbox Ally X that I tried, but I should try it again on the low end one just to do a compare and contrast, because that one has less RAM overall, DRAM overall.
I also think because people are optimizing their games for sub 8 gigs, it's probably less of a problem now than it will be in coming years, right? Like if you look at the games continuing to take more RAM, like this is solving a problem that doesn't exist yet, which is a good thing.
Yeah. So we'll see. Anyway, it's an interesting thing. I want to know if people are actually going to try this out. You were like, oh yeah, maybe I'll try this out. And then you got to the point where it's like, oh, it's on NVIDIA or not on an NVIDIA GPU. Okay.
Yeah. It's funny. This is a question maybe for homework, but I was like, I could grab an AMD card from the office when I'm in and jam it into the main machine and try it out. But I'm a little nervous about changing the GPU and the computer that I need to use all the time for work, because that feels like I would be pretty confident doing that in Windows, but I'm a little nervous doing it in Linux. And Adam's shaking his head for audio listeners. He's like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure for you, I mean, you are more experienced in Linux than I am at this point, so like I think you'd probably be able to get around it fine. But yeah, I don't know. Having multiple drivers on the system seems fraught.
Yeah, let me. I'd love to know what chat thinks about this. My guess is you can just uninstall the NVIDIA package and reinstall the AMD package. I feel like there was a guide. I did that on the stream machine when I switched from the NVIDIA drivers to the AMD drivers.
Right. Yeah, maybe Kashi has some documentation on there.
Yeah, there was Kashi documentation for that, and it was relatively painless. But that machine's also low stakes. If it's down, I just don't do a stream for a day or two, and like that's not the end of the world. If my main desktop breaks, I got problems.
It's the end of the world for your fans.
Yeah.
So
yeah, only my fans.
Nope, wrong ones. Anyway, let's move over to our diary entries for this week because I'm excited.
You only have two. You have two things written here, which is like I'm not judging. I'm not saying you're not carrying your weight here, Adam. But
a couple things. Number one, I've been kind of sick this past week, so I haven't had a ton of futzing time. Number two, one of the items is the Lenovo ThinkPad, which I haven't really done too much with. But now that I last week my check-in was that I installed a new SSD in there and put the 8 gig stick back in, and I've finally got back up and running, kind of in the configuration that I had on the Asus laptop. And man, yeah, it's a little slower, and there's definitely tasks where it starts to chunk up a little bit, but man, this thing is just feels good. Like having that SSD in there now, it's alleviated so many issues.
You went from the slowest of slow. Look, that we've said it for years. The best, if you don't have an SSD in your computer, the best thing you do is get an SSD. Nothing else matters. So congratulations, you've rediscovered the mid 2010s.
I know, and, it does feel good to have that win again. Though there was some chatter in I can't remember if it was in YouTube comments or in Discord, but somebody was like, hey, you know what you should do now? Now you should go back and take out the 8 gig stick and run with 4 gigs of system RAM just to compare and contrast, because when the system RAM fills up, it's going to spill out to the SSD, and the SSD is so fast, I might not notice it. I mean, I wouldn't recommend
Apple way.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't recommend that for long-term use, because that's going to denigrate or degrade your SSD faster. But I like for science, I'm kind of curious, and I don't really care too much.
I mean, look, Apple's been doing that as a core function of the OS for a really long time now.
But that's not a good thing, right?
I mean, I don't know. I keep meaning to look at my wife's M1 MacBook, which we bought in, I think 2021. Okay. So it's like almost 5 years old now. And I'm curious to see what her SSD lifespan is like, because she's a tab fiend. When I look at her laptop, it's like 3,000 Chrome tabs or something ridiculous. So yeah,
and she's probably not somebody like us who monitors how much DRAM usage we're using, and oh wow, it's spilled over into the SSD.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you, she's not even aware that there's DRAM in that computer. She's just like, hey, the computer's slow. Should I get another one, or is this fixable? I'm like, just let's fix it, please.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, but Well, actually, does Mac OS have an easy way to look into the SSD
of course.
health?
Because
okay.
it's just it's Unix under there. You can just download your SSD monitoring tools just like you would on Linux. It's not a Windows like, it's a Unix like.
Well, I'm curious. Yeah. Anyway, so bullet. One of the bullets doesn't really matter. Other thing, but
so you have one bullet, is what you're telling me.
I really have one bullet, and the reason why there's only one bullet with no sub bullets in here is because I didn't want to ruin the surprise.
Okay.
I didn't want you going in our little Notion and peeking around and being like, "Oh wow, Adam did that."
See, I'm going to foreshadow, because when I don't want to surprise you, when I want to keep you surprised, I say something like, "This didn't work. Period. The reason will surprise you."
Oh, okay. Which I see now.
Yeah,
in your list. But
okay. So let's hear this one bullet.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, this bullet actually started off as a bullet for my other podcast, Expedition Handheld. In last week's episode, Russ and I kind of did a deep dive into the Nintendo DS. I recently got a DSi from friend of the show, Steve Lynn, and I've been enjoying, diving into the history of the DS, because I have a really soft spot for this. So I have some of my own carts, but then I figured out how to put homebrew stuff on there and load stuff on the SD card reader. But then I found out there is a new project, an open source project called DS Pico. So I got it in. I don't know if the camera.
There we go. Focused. Okay.
So this is essentially like a Nintendo DS cartridge. That you can run games on. And these things, like these kinds of things, have existed since 2006, 2007. I think everyone probably in some point in their life had an R4 card, which was essentially the same kind of thing where you put your ROMs on there and then you can play everything off of one cartridge. The cool thing about this one is that it is, from hardware to software, completely open source. This is an open source project by the LNH team. And they're not even, the team is not even selling anything. They have a GitHub. They surface all of the files if you want to 3D print your own little cartridge kind of thing. Like everything about it is open source, and it's getting a lot of excitement in the community, because that means that like this thing should live on for a while, because people are going to do some crazy things with it.
Okay.
So what I did, I don't have a 3D printer or the tools to actually make one, but there is a company that, or there's a handful of companies that will actually sell you the cartridge itself. And there's different configurations. I specifically got one from Phenom Mod. I'll put a link in the description if somebody's interested in picking it up. But this one has a USB-C port on the top. Some of them have micro USB. It's like you get to pick the shell color. I get this kind of like pinkish kind of shell thing. But essentially it's a Raspberry Pi or a Raspberry, how was it? 2040?
It's an RP2040, yeah.
Yeah, RP2040. So
that's the thing in the Pi Zero, I think, right?
I honestly, I don't know. I don't know the super about Raspberry Pi kind of stuff.
Yep, it's a dual core microcontroller chip by the Raspberry Pi people. It has a little bit of RAM. It has some tensor cores. Wow, wild. This is
so it can even do a little bit of emulation. Like there's a lot of cool stuff about this project. Anyway, like I'm going to be talking about actually using it further over on Expedition Handheld, so go subscribe over there anywhere you get your podcast. Synergy, woohoo! But the reason why I want to talk about it here and why I'm so excited is because I got it in, and the one that I got did not have anything on it. So you can buy ones from other companies that actually have stuff loaded onto the SD card, but by your own risk, like because you actually have to grab.
So you won't plug a USB hacked ROM card into your computer, but you'll pick a USB thumb drive off the ground and plug that in.
No. I'm saying it because technically, if to do certain things, you need the DS firmware on it, things like that. So make sure you have your own DS and you're dumping your own DS ROMs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so
only
whatever.
getting ROMs for games you actually own, yada yada.
Yeah. So, you know,
Dot
just
the
put
I's
that out there.
cross the T's.
But yeah, so this one is literally just a company that makes the hardware for you, sends it to you, has a nice little sticker that you
That's
put on
cool.
it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I actually don't even think I can't remember if this micro SD card came with it or not. Actually,
Do you?
but
Can you like that? That's the same chip as on a Pico, a Raspberry Pi Pico, I think, the $4 ones. So you theoretically could just run Linux on that thing, is my guess.
oh well, that would be
Yeah.
hilarious.
I mean, I don't know what you would get in or out of it, but like, yeah.
Yeah, who knows? I think people are going to do some crazy stuff. Anyway, I got in the hardware.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to look up some guides on what to do to get this up and running.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are websites that will give you just the files and just say, hey, you know, go have fun with it. But I was like, okay, you know what? I'm actually going to go to the LNH team GitHub and see how they recommend you configure it. And so I went over to the guide, and the top of the guide says DS Pico guide. This guide aims to document step by step how to set up your DS Pico. Okay, cool. The first section is prerequisites. Bullet number 1, ensure you have a Linux or Windows subsystem for Linux environment set up. And I was like, boom, boy, do I. Here we go.
Wow, finally.
Like, if this were a year ago before I got on this journey, I would say, nope. I'm done.
Hey, Will, can you help me with this?
No, I'd probably just buy the one that was pre-configured, but whatever. So then I was like, okay, you know what? I can do this. I have a GitHub account, number 1. You know, I've got Linux.
That's true.
Number 2.
Yeah.
I can do this. So step 2 is install blocks DS. So like, then it's like, okay, there's a link. I got to go install that. Then there's an instruction page for blocks DS. And then it says, okay, now install wonderful toolchain. You know, it is just like, it's just layers
You know how to
deep.
do this. This is Unix. I know this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of annoying because it's this layers deep thing of like, well, first, before you do this, you got to install this. But before you do that, you got to install this. And before you do that, you got to make sure you do this kind of thing. Anyway, whatever. For the most part, I just copied and pasted whatever was on the pages.
Perfect.
I mean, some of this stuff I understood, like on the blocks DS thing. So you install the wonderful toolchain. So I did that, whatever. And then the second bullet on it is add blocks DS repository from Pacman. And I was like, oh, I know what Pacman is. So then I look at the commands that they give you, and it's like, oh, okay, so you have to enable the repo on yours.
But you're not running an Arch. Did you install Pacman on your Fedora machine?
Well, so I can give you the code. So it's WF-Pacman-SYU space WF-tools. So I don't think I enabled Pacman specifically.
Oh, so it's just running in the wonderful. I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So they just okay, that makes sense.
But it does enable. So the next line is WF-config repo enable blocks DS. So yeah. Anyway, so you're installing the blocks DS repository.
Yeah. So that local
installing the ARM toolchain. Yada yada yada. And I was like, okay, cool. You know, I did that. That was the first bullet in the thing, and then the next one was install .NET 9.0 in your environment.
Yep.
It links out to Microsoft kind of thing. I went over to Fedora. It was pretty straightforward. Just sudo dnf install .NET-SDK-10.0. Install the runtime. Okay, cool. That seems to be pretty straightforward, even though I don't necessarily know what it's doing. And I know Brad Shoemaker is probably yelling at the screen to be like, well, you should learn what it's doing. But, whatever. I want to play some DS games.
Sometimes it's nice to know what it's doing. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's fine,
Yeah. Anyway, so I got through the prerequisites, and then the first bullet is getting and assembling your DS Pico. I already have that. Whatever. Yeah. The second one literally says compiling the DS Pico DLDI. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going to compile something.
It's finally happening.
Yeah. So the first step was clone the DS Pico DLDI repository. And then step 2 is run make. So actually, in that first step, I was like, okay, cool, clone the DS Pico DLDI repository. So I click on it, and then I'm like, okay, where's the clone button? Okay, where's the clone button? So I had to Google. I was like, okay, how do you clone a GitHub? And I was like,
it says right there, git clone -- recursive, and then it has the URL. It's right there in the instructions.
In which one? Where are you at?
I don't know. The ones for the Pico loader.
We might not be on the right one, but
okay. Anyway, but okay. So you cloned.
Well, yeah, because then it was like, oh, you've got so little weird thing here. There's a green button that says code. It's a drop down, right?
On GitHub, and then you're talking about
on GitHub, and then at the top of that it says clone.
Yeah.
So is that button really for cloning, or is it for code to clone it?
Look,
just asking.
You can. Don't ask. So you pull that down, and then you click. Nobody uses the GitHub CLI. You use Git if you're on Linux, and then go to the HTTPS side, and you just copy that URL, and then you type clone space, and then the directory you want to put it in, and then the repo, or maybe the other way around. But anyway.
Well, you know what I did first? I did the logical thing. It says download zip.
Nope.
And I was like, oh, okay, I can download the zip.
Nope.
Anyone can do that. So I extracted it, and then I was just like, okay, I don't think this is doing what I wanted to do.
No, you did the wrong thing. You did that bad.
Yeah.
I mean, that'll work, just to be clear, but it's like the clone thing is really easy once you get used to it. But there's a fair amount of, hey, how do I do this for the first, 10 years you use it or so. And then you're like, oh, finally, I remember the 3 things I needed to know.
Yeah. So far, luckily, all the documentation up until this point was pretty straightforward. Yeah. Right. I mean, like, I didn't know what it was doing once again, but at least it was just like, hey, copy this command. Did it give you an error? Yes or no? Boom, do it. Here, the instructions were literally, number 1, clone the repository, and then number 2, run make. And I was like, okay, you're not giving me enough here for my needs, kind of thing. And I tried to Google it. I tried to do some stuff, and then I actually remembered there's been people before who were like, hey, Adam, like, why are you trying to Google around and find very specific needs? Why don't you ask a chatbot for that? So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to use this as another experiment, because plenty of people have said, hey, chatbots can actually be useful for situations like this. And I loaded up Gemini Pro, because I have a Google One. I pay for Google One or whatever, so I can get more storage on Google Drive. So I have access to Gemini Pro, and I walked through it, and I was like, hey, here's the web page. I'm on step 2, and I don't know how to clone the repository and run make. And I will tell you, yes, there are some issues, and I did run into some issues that I'm going to get to in a second. But like, the thing that I did like about that versus me trying to just Google and piece together the information is that what it listed out for me, and maybe I'll show a screenshot. It was like, hey, yeah, this can be confusing. I mean, it had real bubbly language, whatever. You're annoying.
Super smart, man. I don't care. Like, I know you feel like you're having troubles, but you got this, bro. I believe in you, and you are the best at doing this Linux Git stuff of anybody I've ever worked with.
I will tell you, I kind of needed that at that moment, because I was a little scared. You
could have just texted me,
I appreciate it. Yeah. But then before it went through the instructions, it actually listed out a list of the terminology. They were like, hey, actually, I should bring it up just so I can list out some stuff here. But they were like, yeah, okay,
clone means to copy.
Well, I mean, I'm not that dumb. I know what that means. But yeah, let me scroll up real quick. So the translation, it was like compiling. The DLDI, which I didn't know what that was, dynamically linked device interface. I was like, okay. And they were like, this is essentially a driver for Nintendo DS Homebrew. A DLDI file tells the software how to properly read and write the specific micro SD card slot to your DS Pico flash card. And I was like, okay, that put it, like it actually listed out some things in human words or AI words that's felt more human readable than just Googling something.
What you should do is keep asking it to explain it increasingly simpler. So you're like, I don't understand this. Can you explain this easier? And then eventually be like,
I'm real
this computer
dumb.
program make what it go fast. Good.
Caveman mode.
Explain it like a cave. Like it was. It was
Wendell.
It was Wendell that told us to explain it like a caveman. It's remarkable because it works
down
really
on
well.
tokens.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then the next step was how to actually do it. So it said download the code. So in the terminal, git clone, and then the URL, and then open the folder you just downloaded. So CD into that folder, and then hit make.
Yeah.
And guess what?
It worked.
Let's see. Yes, it worked. I hit make and I compiled it.
Ooh.
Like it only took a couple seconds. Like I actually did this on my Asus machine with a lot of cores. So I don't know how long it would have taken to do on my old Lenovo, but like I compiled something.
I know.
Like, I didn't
awesome.
compile a kernel.
No, congratulations. This is good. This is your first step into a broader world, Adam. You're it's very good. You should be proud.
Yeah. So anyway, long story short, I went through the steps and it actually did hallucinate some stuff. So like it told me what to do in the next steps. And then I was like, okay, cool. I ran into an issue or a command not found kind of thing. And they're like, oh yeah, you know what? You need to do this first. It's assuming that you did this. And I was like, you just told me to do this already. And I even said that in the response. I was like,
it's like, you're right, Adam. You absolutely are correct. I'm sorry I made a mistake. I am never going to do that again. If I do it again, I'm going to delete myself from the internet. I am the worst AI that you've ever seen.
Yeah. It also had some weird verbiage in there. And then, I'm just going to read it real quick. Oh no, that's not the one. Sorry. Anyway, there was some stuff in there like it wasn't perfect is what I'm trying to say. Okay. AI like still needs to be checked. I mean, luckily, like I'm smart enough to be like, hey, you know what? Like I think you're seeing something out of context. I might not understand what you're doing, but you're not remembering that we just did that thing before, kind of thing. So like I'm not saying it's perfect, but at the end of the day, it did take me step by step through there, and I did ask some questions, and it actually gave me a branching path at one point. They were like, hey, listen, there's some steps in this guide if you want to continue, but that's only if you're going to actually make your own games or do like deeper development kind of stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
If you just want to get your if you just want the card to just get ready to play games, you don't need to worry about that. Just do this kind of thing.
So you can run like homebrew and debug. I mean, I know you can run homebrew software, but you can run like debug on this as well. That's rad.
Supposedly, yeah. I mean, once again, I didn't get into that. Yeah. But I did everything. I finished it up, and I was able to throw some ROMs on there and throw it in my DS, and it just worked. I was like, wow. I don't know. It might seem silly, but I'm proud of myself because, like I said, awesome. I think a year ago I would have got something in like this, and I would have looked at GitHub and been like,
I just need to find the one that has everything pre-configured and flash it on there. Yeah. So, which, hey, listen, I mean, if you want to just get up and running, you could have done that. And actually the chatbot did tell me like, hey, just so you know, like you're going through the official steps, but if you go to this other website over here, they already have the folders you need, and you can just download it and put it on your cart. It did tell me that, and I was like, no, I kind of want to keep going. I kind of want to see what the process is. You're doing things the hard way, Adam. I'm so proud of you.
Well, I mean, it wasn't that hard though.
Hard way.
Yeah,
you did it the hard way. Don't take this away from yourself.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. It was one of those little projects that. I don't know how to describe it. I'm going to talk about this a little bit more on Expedition Handheld, but it's like I've really been enjoying taking older hardware and doing something new with it, right? Like the Lenovo ThinkPad has shown me that's cool. Like I have a PS2 over here that I loaded some stuff on. Like I'm not doing any hardware modifications. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, that's not true. I guess
I
did change the screen on my Game Boy Advance, but like it is kind of fun to like find new ways to take old things that you love and do new things with it. So
are you playing games with the old things that you love, or are you just futzing with them and then putting them in the drawer to age for another 15 years so you can futz with them some more then?
Well, both.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'll talk about more on Expedition Handheld.
Okay.
But yeah, so I mean, but it has been fun, and I really didn't think that this was gonna go into territory to talk about here on Dual Boot Diaries. But
Yeah.
I literally, when I saw that first prerequisite saying ensure you have a Linux system set up, I was like, oh man, I can do this.
Worlds are colliding. I think on that happy note, should we take a quick break?
Yeah, I need to take a break. I need to take a breather. This is too much for me.
Yeah, too much excitement. It's overloaded his circuits.
Yeah, too much excitement. We'll be right back after this break. And we're back through the magic of editing. We are back. Will, I've taken a breather. I've calmed down.
Yeah.
I'm ready to move on and hear about the important stuff that you've been working on.
You've compiled your thoughts, and and you're ready to get on to the next phase of the show.
Actually, one last question real quick before we move on. Like I feel like I compiled something really tiny.
Yeah.
Like how do you think that compares to compiling a kernel? Like a kernel probably is infinitesimally bigger than what I just compiled.
Well, so we can get to this. Let's see. I have on my list to talk about this week.
You're compiling something.
I'm compiling stuff. So I got a 3D printer. I think we talked about this a little bit last week.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I installed the software for the 3D printer from the repo, from the AUR or from the Arch repository. I don't remember which one it came from. But it was the code repo that had to be compiled. And like the AUR, the Paru handled all the compilation and all that stuff for me. But it took like 25, 30 minutes to compile the slicer tool.
Really? And it mostly hit your CPU, GPU, memory?
100% CPU.
Wow. Man, you wish you had more than 8 cores at that point, huh?
I did very much wish I had more than 8 cores. So that was I mostly used Bamboo Studio because it's a Bamboo printer, but Orca Slicer was requiring compiling. And I have a couple other things that have off and on required compiling. If I have something that's big that requires compiling, like OpenDeck originally was shipping only a code repo. So OpenDeck is the thing that controls your Stream Deck rather. So I was having to compile that. And even though that's not a particularly large piece of software, it was a pretty hefty compilation time, which meant that every time it updated and I updated my system at the end of the day before I went to bed, it would be like 30 minutes of compiling or 10 minutes of compiling or whatever. So I assume, extrapolating from this and that Linux Tech Tips article where Linus built Linus a 64-core Threadripper to compile the kernel faster. My guess is that compiling the kernel probably takes a fair minute.
Okay.
I haven't actually done a kernel compile in the modern era though, so I don't know. But what I will say is I'm still compiling my AIO driver every time there's a kernel update, and I also manually start it in the morning when I turn on the computer every day because I haven't bothered to automate that yet. And
how big is that compile? Like how long does that take?
You click the button and you type your password and it's done before you're you don't even have to type the password for that. It takes like 10 seconds.
Oh, okay.
So that's really fast, but it's a really small chunk of code.
I mean, it's probably like what I did then. Yeah.
Yeah. So
also,
anyway,
why does that, like, I guess the math hits the CPU. Like there's no way to accelerate that with GPU.
I don't think anybody's bothered to make a GPU compiler.
Okay.
Like it's interesting. I wonder if the GPU is capable of the math. Like I wonder if parallelization matters there as much as serial speed. But I mean, adding more cores seems to make compiling faster. So I don't know. So that's a question for the comp sci nerds. Why don't we not have GPU compilers? Okay, so I'm still doing that. I got to figure that out because it's like if I forget to do it, I'll be sitting here. I fire up a game or run DaVinci or something, and all of a sudden I hear a jet engine under my computer, and it's because Cooler Control doesn't have the radiator temperature to set all the fans by, so it's just defaulting to BIOS speeds.
So you need to compile it so that they can continue to talk to each other.
Yeah, I need like basically when the kernel updates, I have to recompile it. Before, if the kernel doesn't update, I could just restart it, and both of those are relatively easy, but it is something I need to figure out a better solution for it.
Okay.
let's see. What should I start with? Okay, so last week we talked about Save Desktop, which was a tool you found to port your KDE and GNOME, just KDE, from one machine to another.
Well, I mean, I did GNOME. I can't speak for KDE.
So it does KDE and GNOME. I looked at that and was like, wow, this is incredibly cool. I'm going to download it. I'm going to install it on my computer. And I opened it up and I typed Save Desktop, and it said, hey, your desktop environment's not supported, man. You got to use KDE or GNOME. So that was great.
Oh, so yeah, okay. So it only works for the
It only works for the popular desktop environments.
You mean the desktop environments that everyone else uses?
Not everyone, sir. There are dozens of us. Dozens.
I mean, at least it told you why it didn't work.
Yeah, it was a very friendly error message as it was giving me the finger and backing away from me as quietly. So anyway, I have not ported over my laptop to the old Mac yet. It turns out I don't have any external hard drives big enough that are USB-A. Everything I have is USB-C at this point because they're all little SSDs. And I don't have I need like a 1 terabyte or 512 gigabyte free space USB-A external hard drive.
Why not?
I'm not taking one of your thumb drives, dog.
No, it's an adapter.
I could use an
USB-C
adapter
on one end to Type A.
I do have one of those. I wonder if it gets enough power. Anyway, I'll try that. That's a good call. I forgot about that. Okay, so dump that in the homework for next week. Mm-hmm. The local send I did end up using quite a bit this week for other reasons and is fabulous. Although I had a weird problem in my house, not at the office, where I couldn't connect between a laptop. Like the two laptops on Wi-Fi just didn't see each other. And when I disconnected and reconnected one of them from Wi-Fi, it suddenly started working. And I don't understand why, because I'm not like doing any weird VLAN stuff or anything like that on my net LAN. So it like flowering cherry Toledo didn't see growing cherry avocado or whatever the other.
I love how they do that. Yeah.
The random computer names are pretty good. But that is an eminently useful piece of software. Holy cow.
Right. Did you download it is there an iOS app? I can't remember if I asked.
Yeah, there is. I think it turns out I usually just use Dropbox if I have stuff on iOS. I think I downloaded it for iOS too. Yeah, I have it on iOS. Let's see if it works. Maybe that was where I had the problem.
Yeah, just because I know at least that there's things that I'm like, oh man, I have a photo on my phone that I wish I can get on my laptop real quick, which usually I'm like, okay, well I got to wait for Google Photos to sync it, and then I'll go over to the website and pull it there. But like, I feel like local send could be easier in that situation. But
local send rules, and the iOS immediately saw the desktop, so that was nice.
Oh, good. Nice.
Yeah, so that was weird. It hasn't been a problem after that initial time. So maybe it was something weird that like a reboot fixed or something. I don't actually know. But it was definitely strange.
Real quick, I do also wonder, do we know how secure this is? Is this something I should be asking Mikey? Like,
I think because you have to opt in to receive something, it's probably fine, right? Like you're okay. I'm going to channel Mikey here for a second, and he can yell at me later. But my guess is he's going to say you're expanding your threat profile somewhat because you're exposing your computer to connections from outside sources. However, it's open source. It's vetted. A lot of people use it. If it matches your risk profile, would the NSA allow this? No. Does it match the Adam Patrick Murray threat profile? Yeah, it's probably fine.
I mean, that's a low bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're not going outside of your home network firewall, right?
Well, but
this is all happening behind your firewall. So somebody would have to get into your firewall to even try to interact or intersect the local send kind of thing.
I wonder.
There's no way this is going up to the cloud and then pulling it back down. Or at least I hope not. That doesn't sound like the name signifies local send. So
it says no internet required. Your data never leaves your local network. Now, AirDrop can negotiate over Bluetooth. So AirDrop, you can do a proximity thing with Bluetooth or with the NFC sensor on an iPhone. Mm-hmm. And I don't think this does the Bluetooth thing. It doesn't look like it does from the homepage. I haven't dug into the documentation. So it's probably
this doesn't need internet, but it's still using a network.
It's using Wi-Fi, yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if it'll work without being like, if you're in, say, like the traditional use case for AirDrop for me was like when I was sitting at an airport and I had a video file or something that I wanted to get to our editor before we got on the plane, and I would just AirDrop it to their Mac. And we didn't need to have a network connection at that point at all. Like, it wasn't even like it just used the local connection. You would it would see the computer on Bluetooth. You'd say, I want to send this. They'd accept it, and then it would blast it over Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi Direct, right?
Wi-Fi Direct at that point, I think, or probably not Wi-Fi Direct. Probably Apple's weird fork of Wi-Fi Direct. But yeah,
okay.
But it's end-to-end encrypted, it says, so you're not going to. It's not like sharing your files in open air. But anyway, so local send's cool. You should install local send. The 3D printing stuff. So I did the Orca. I did Bamboo Studio. I downloaded them both from the AUR and from the Arch repository at first. And it turns out I think Bamboo Studio is probably a fork of Orca, the open source tool. Like, I think Bamboo has built their own stuff on top of the Orca client because they look incredibly similar. And to the point that, like, when you install Orca and you're like, hey, what kind of printer do you have? Like, I have a Bamboo. It's like, do you want to install this plugin? And then it's like functionally identical, but without like the Bamboo Studio integrates the MakerWorld, which is their kind of 3D file repository, the Bamboo one. So you can just download pre-sliced stuff and dump it straight to the printer without having to do the slicing. So I've been using Bamboo Studio. Switching to the Flatpaks was a significant quality of life improvement because I wasn't having to compile stuff and the functionality was effectively the same. It had some weird dependencies on the Flatpaks, but basically they're working pretty well. The scaling on those apps is a little bit weird in Neri, which is a continual problem for non-Wayland native applications.
Wait, so another Neri issue. We're hold on. Where's my
just look
my whiteboard?
Look, how many? I guarantee you, somebody have to do the tally, but I bet my Neri issues are fewer than your number of times you've switched distros. It's close. That's true.
Yeah, that's okay. We all have something, you know.
Yeah. Don't judge me, Adam. Don't judge me. So that's going well. It's kind of shocking. I've been doing a little bit of stuff on Windows, a little bit of stuff on Mac. I mean, on Linux. It's surprising how kind of interchangeable they are. Like, Linux is a real first-class citizen this software in a way that I guess I shouldn't be surprised by, because of course the 3D printer nerds are also using Linux, but like it's like, compared to, say, the Stream Deck, where there's no, like, some of these commercial products where there's no Linux support whatsoever, the 3D printer people are all about that Linux life, which I like. So it's quite nice.
You had a 3D printer nerd on Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod, one Norman Chan from Tested.
Yes.
I was actually a little bummed you didn't get into how he configures his stuff, because he's not a Linux guy, right?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay.
No, he's not.
Yeah, I was wondering if, like, maybe he dabbles in it, or if he knows anything about using it with the 3D printing stuff.
He's been running. He's got a little bit of a home lab, if I recall, but he's not like into it. It's more like, I wanted a place to run Plex movies for my kids and stuff like that.
Okay.
Like, look, every parent who has discs and children, in the days before streaming, when you would be like, oh, okay, you can watch a movie if you want, pick it out and jam it into the Xbox. And the first time your kid smears a whole bunch of peanut butter on a Disney DVD Blu-ray that's in the vault and it's going to cost you $150 to replace, you're like, I should invest in a Plex server, which is the onboarding for that. But no, Norm is not a Linux guy, as far as I know.
Yeah, and also I guess it then needs to be said, like, you don't have to run Linux to run 3D printing.
No.
Yeah.
No, I guess what my point is, when I say it's a first class citizen, I mean the Windows software for this Bamboo printer, or Orca, either one, and the Linux software are functionally identical. There's no like weird caveats. There's no, you can't see the preview. It doesn't 3D render the slice because what for folks who don't know about 3D printing, we talked about it in the Tech Bot a couple weeks ago, but like, you take a 3D model, you put it on the printer bed, on a 3D representation of the printer bed, and then you hit a button that tells you set a bunch of options, and those options tell the software how to slice that 3D model into a bunch of 2D layers that define the path that the tool head goes as it's spitting out plastic as it goes on each layer, and then it goes up a little bit and it does another layer, and you just stacks those layers, eighth of a mil, 20, it's eighth of a mil at a time or something. To 2/10 of a mil at a time, and that's what the slicer software does. That's what you need it for. That's the important part of having it. And the experience is functionally identical on Windows and Linux, which is a refreshing change compared to some of the other hardware that we use on the reg.
Yeah, that is cool.
Let's see, webcam control, the app that we talked about a few months ago, that I use to control the settings on my Insta360 camera, the one that has the gimbal that lets me aim it at my head and stuff like that, is using a deprecated version of the GNOME packages. So I got to find something else for that. So if people have suggestions about that, I would love to hear them. On the webcam beat, I also dug out an old Elgato 1080p face cam, the first gen one that I use for secondary camera stuff on streams. Like if I'm building Lego and stuff like that, sometimes I'll do like a top down or a hand camera. And I can't get the exposure to work right in Linux at all. It's either way blown out or way underexposed, and I can't manually set the exposure. I installed a bunch of VL40, the kind of the command level, low level interface for this. And it seems like Elgato just doesn't make those options writable in non-Elgato software. So I would love to know if people have ideas about that. I would love, I'm just kind of at a loss, honestly. So,
I have a feeling this feels like one of those things people are going to be like, yeah, Elgato just really doesn't care about Linux.
Yeah, it seems like maybe.
And but also, would you be willing to move off of Elgato stuff? I use a lot of Elgato stuff.
So most of it's good. Like the lights and stuff are pretty easy because I just control them through Home Assistant because they have a Home Assistant integration, right? And then there's an OpenDeck integration for Home Assistant. So I have buttons that do the things that the Elgato buttons would have done on the Elgato software on Windows. The camera control and the capture cards have been quite good. Like I'm using one of the capture cards to play PlayStation games and stuff like that, and it works quite well. This is the one that's baking my noodle, and I don't know. Like the other webcams aren't much better. Like this Insta360, I can't control the exposure on either. But I can set it in Windows, and then it sticks, and I just control my lights so that the lights are always the same in both Windows and Linux. So anyway, I guess if people the problem is there's not a lot of good quality webcams. I don't want to get a real camera and have to deal with more capture stuff and hang a big giant camera off of an armature because that sucks. So I guess what I'm looking for is a webcam that doesn't suck, that has decent Linux support and lets you control basic features like exposure and shutter speed, not just brightness and saturation and hue and zoom, which is what they all seem to do. Anyway, webcams, we need them and they still suck after 30 years.
Yeah.
Let's see. I have a note on here that my Stream Deck is haphazard and I don't have a good. I need to rethink my configuration because I have. It's just messy. My buttons are in weird places. I wasn't thoughtful when I set it up for Linux. I was just trying to get it to work, and now I've made tech debt for myself to fix.
For your Stream OS machine.
This is so it's
controlled by your main machine, but
yeah. So I used to have a Stream Deck plugged into the Stream machine and a Stream Deck plugged in my desktop, right? And one would do the desktop stuff, that I want to have always on, control the lights in the office and let me mute my microphone and stuff like that. And then the other one that was hooked up to the Stream machine was just for OBS on that machine and stuff like that. But using the OpenDeck plugins, I'm able to connect to all that stuff remotely, and I'm not having to do any. I realize I don't need to have a Stream Deck plugged into that machine anymore. So I have them both plugged into my main desktop now, and my setup is not. It's not configured right for that. So I need to like I have one with 8 buttons and one with 24 buttons, I think. 32 buttons. I have plenty of buttons, but I think I have the stuff that should be knobs on the 8 button one on the 24 button one or 32 button one and vice versa. So I need to just rework it. And the nice thing is the open deck configuration for these buttons is all just JSON files that are stored in folders. So I think I could just drag them from one folder to the other to like move them back and forth. We'll see. I'll let you know how that goes. That's a TBD.
Or what if you get that Stream Deck 1U rack mount? Yeah.
I think that one only works with BitFocus Companion. I think you have to use BitFocus for that, which I don't. I try to live that life, and I don't want to go back there.
Okay.
The last thing is just a quick check-in on the HP Strix Halo laptop and OpenClaw.
Yeah. You took it home last week.
Yeah, it's up and working. I've got I followed a guide that AMD actually posted. That is titled "Run OpenClaw locally on AMD Ryzen AI Max processors and Radeon GPUs." Incredibly descriptive title, very helpful. I'll put in the link in the notes if you want to link it in the show notes. I got it started. I got thanks to Wendell last week on the Full Nerd mentioned that Olama stinks performance wise on Linux. And he was correct. I installed this thing called LM Studio, which AMD recommends, that basically manages the agents that are running for you in the same way that Olama does, and provides an API endpoint so that OpenClaw and other stuff can connect to that. And I got it up and running, and I've got it running with, I think, Qwen 3.5 something locally, so I can kind of talk to it. 3.5 35B A3B model, which runs on the AI Max integrated GPU really well, even with I think we have the 96 gig model of the or 96
really?
gig model of the HP.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I didn't know. I thought it was the max configuration, but
it's fine. It turns out it's fine. It runs really quickly. It's more responsive than the same model was on the GeForce 5090 running through Olama. I haven't reconfigured the local machine to do the LM Studio stuff, but it's interesting. Like I like having it run locally. I like having something that I control and that I'm not sending stuff up to somebody else's servers. I don't know that I'm actually going to use it a whole lot, but I'm going to keep I want to add a couple more different models to it and try some different stuff. And it's progressing for folks who asked.
Do you like having it on a separate laptop, or do you wish it was a mini PC? Like how would you have this set up?
So ultimately the way you interact with this isn't on the local machine, right? You have it connect to Signal or Telegram or iMessage or Discord. Yeah. I have it talking to me through a Discord bot. So ideally it would be a standalone little machine that lives in the garage someplace. And I don't have
connected
to
your network.
Just connected to the network, and that I talk to through the Discord window or whatever. But the laptop is, the laptop's easy, and it's actually nice for setting it up and configuring it because I can sit in the living room and do it in there instead of being trapped in my hole here where I spend 10 hours a day or more. So yeah. But it's this is the first time I've used any generative AI stuff that felt actually moderately useful. I think the next step is to do what I really want, and the thing that's compelling about this is people are using it as a personal assistant where you have it watch your emails and tell you when an important email comes in, stuff like that. Because it's easy to miss that stuff. I have a lot of volume on my mailboxes, and I don't like missing things. And I would like to know, oh, hey, so-and-so asked for an appointment. You have time at this such and such time, blah, blah, blah. And so I can just hit them with a response immediately.
So that's why you never email me back, huh?
You don't ever email me, man. You send me, you just war dial me on text. It's 35 texts in 15 minutes. I'm like, hey man, what are you? Are you a teenage girl? Stop texting me.
I'm like, hey man, what's up? Can you talk?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, are you there? Text. Why are you responding to me? Are you mad?
Hey, I saw the blue check marks. You saw this.
Why are you leaving me on red? So I thought people were saying unread for a long time there, not on red, meaning that you read the text. I don't do read notifications on text messages, by the way. I never.
Really?
If you see a read notification, somebody's hacked my phone. It's not me.
Well, now I need to check.
Yeah.
Because now
they're always off.
That is
Eternally
weird.
off. Yeah.
Except for when you send a message, right?
Well, when I send a message, it marks everything above that red, I believe.
Yeah. Because there's people I know who do that as well. So, yeah.
I don't want you to have that control over my life. Look, this is.
Ah, crap! You're right.
Yeah.
You didn't.
No.
Dude. You have. Oh no, actually.
Yeah, I left you on red.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Actually, no. Even the old ones are left on red.
Well, I guess they left unread.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Dude, rude. I thought we were friends.
We are. That's why I don't give you that notification. I don't give you that power over me. You're not my boss. Well, I mean, kind of you are, but like, in another more important way, no. I'm my own person. Damn it.
You're your own man.
Yeah. I'm looking to see if that's actually still true, because I said that years and years ago. And send read receipts off.
There you go.
Get wrecked.
Well, it's good the Blue Bubbles works with that too.
So I got to say, Blue Bubbles, I've hit one of the downsides of Blue Bubbles.
Uh-oh.
I know it's shocking. It doesn't sync my red status from the Blue Bubbles clients back to the other iOS and Mac native clients. So like if I read a text message in Blue Bubbles, it'll still be unread when I come back to my phone later. Now, that's like a 2-click solution. I just long press the messages app and say mark all read, but it's not my favorite. Yeah.
So what you're questioning whether you already had seen that message or not?
No, I'm not. I just always mark everything red, so I don't never question anything. That's that's my life.
Okay.
So yeah, that's
not a problem.
Yeah, that was a lot of stuff. It was a lot of little stuff this week.
Yeah, a little smattering.
But I almost forgot the most important news.
What?
Thanks to Ernie Smith on Blue Sky, who is he runs the TDM blog, I think.
Okay.
He writes about Linux sometimes, and he mentioned the other day this, which is a fingerprint sensor. It's a little USB fingerprint dongle.
Oh, that just plugs into USB Type A and
Just
hangs
plugs
off the
into
side?
USB Type A. Well, if you have a laptop, it hangs off the side.
I guess it depends where you're plugging it into.
But if you have a desktop, you can get a little USB mount and glue it up under your desk, so you have like a panic button under there to log into your computer with. Now, I have bought several. I have a whole collection of them, of other crappy USB dongles that aren't supported by Linux, because FPrintD is an incredible piece of software, but their hardware support lists the chipsets and the USB IDs for devices, not the actual product names. And because this is a category where a lot of people in Shenzhen go out and buy like a fingerprint sensor and a chip and glue them into a USB thing and then sell them on Amazon for $16 or Temu or AliExpress, the way you find one that works for Linux traditionally has been you go buy about 15 different ones and you keep plugging them in until you find one that's on the supported compatibility list. So Ernie found this one on Temu that this guy's selling that uses the chip sailing, I think it's 1971D or something. Hold on, let me get the actual. It's the chip sailing 9711 chipset, which is a supported chipset, but only with a weird fork of FPrintD. So FPrintD is, we talked about this ages ago. It's the software you use on Linux to enable fingerprint recognition.
Okay. And somebody forked it specifically for this?
There are multiple forks. There are forks for like the ones that like you put your finger on, it scans it like it's a Mission Impossible movie from the 90s. There are ones for
that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, you think that's cool, but it's not. They're just slow and janky. This one is specifically for this chip sailing chipset. The things to know, there are a handful of Synaptics ones that are supported by Linux, but they're mostly the kind of Synaptics fingerprint sensors that are integrated in laptops. So either they're the swipey ones that are old, or they're the ones that are like integrated on the power button. You just kind of graze your finger on and it works. You can't get those in a desktop form factor. Nobody makes those in a desktop form factor. This chip sailing one has a driver, but as of April 1st, the driver doesn't compile properly when you download it from the AUR. So
April Fools.
Yeah. Hey, get wrecked.
Gotcha.
So I maybe hopefully the person who maintains this will look up and be like, oh man, I got to update this. Because I don't understand the compiler error that you get when you run it. But there were like 3 other people in the AUR had posted, hey, I can't get this to compile. Can you take a look at it and see what's going on? So hopefully that'll resolve itself soon. I'll keep an eye peeled on that and report back. But if that gets updated, I'll post the Temu link to this. It was shipped from the US, so I didn't have to pay duties. It was like $15, I think $18 shipped maybe. And it works in Windows with Hello, so we'll see if it works in Linux with fprintd when this is updated, when this driver is updated. So
cool.
Yeah.
So are you actually going to mount it like on an extension? And
I already have the mount. I glued it in place before I even checked to see if it was supported, which in retrospect was probably an error. So yeah,
nice.
Everything's going great over here. If you wondered, Adam, it's fantastic. Yeah,
cart before the horse.
The other thing that came out of this is I was looking at, and Framework sells their components independently, right? So you can buy like replacement parts for pretty much everything in a Framework laptop. And there is an ongoing project of people who have bought that Framework sensor, and Jimmy, like, it uses a different interface. It's not just a standard USB interface because it uses like pogo pins for an internal connector. But people have built circuit boards. You can plug that pogo connector into the fingerprint sensor, and then you end up with a thing that has like 2 boards separated by like a 3-inch ribbon cable, which is not what I want on my desktop.
Well, you put it under the desk.
But I have a 3D printer.
Oh.
So I could just
now you're a nerd. Now you're working with portals.
Route out something up underneath the bottom of and just jam those wires up in there with a little bit of tape. And then I have the fingerprint sensor right flush, which would be even better than the giant pokey thing hanging out of the bottom of the computer. It's
look at you. It's
surprisingly difficult, by the way, to find a USB. So I had a USB 2 adapter that's like I don't have it. It came with the Vives years ago. But it has like a micro USB on one side and a USB-A female on the other side, and you can kind of use it as like a desk mount to mount. I think you used them on the Vive to mount the radio dongles for the controllers, because each one had a separate radio dongle. Or maybe it may have been one of the Vive dev kits. I can't remember. And I've used them for years and years as like a place to plug in things like a USB thumb drive or a USB 2 mouse connector or stuff like that. This is the first thing I've had that didn't actually work with it. This thing drew too much power, and it wasn't ID'd properly on the USB 2 one, so I had to get a USB 3.0 one to make it work with the under desk mount. So anyway, the thing I searched for, I eventually found I think they described it as a dongle to plug in your Wi-Fi USB radio, so you get better range or signal or something. Anyway, that's it. That's what I got.
Nice.
That's a lot.
Love it.
Sorry.
Love it.
A little rambly.
No, it's good. All over the place. You're doing work. You're doing the good stuff.
Something's happening.
I'm just here back, celebrating the small wins.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I haven't deleted both partitions yet, so we're on the yeah. And look, for the people who want to know why we don't talk about Windows, I did use Windows multiple times to play Marathon this week, so you're welcome.
I'm using Windows all the time still.
Yeah.
And actually, I think we should move over to homework.
Okay. Do we need to...
but before we do, let's take another ad break.
Perfect.
I got some notes in there, so we'll be right back after these messages. And we're back. And what I was going to say for homework is that we are sitting at almost a month out for me going to Computex.
Uh-oh.
So it's that time again where I'm starting to think like, okay, my laptop situation, what gear do I take? I'm kind of in a little bit of a different situation now that I'm probably going to be going alone. So yeah, and unfortunately my first thought is now that I'm back to editing video again, I think I might just default to Windows this trip.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm not going to have the time or the energy to futz with stuff even in the smallest amount. So
are you going to put this on the 8 gig Lenovo? Like take the Garbo computer there just to live that life that you said we all should be living now?
No.
Wow. No. Coward.
No. The Asus laptop I have is plenty powerful enough, so I'm not worried about that, and it's already configured for everything. It's just I'm trying to think of a world where, I mean, I guess theoretically I could continue to do the Photoshop stuff in my VM.
Okay.
Sure, okay,
Yeah.
but I think, and who knows? Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't tried it, so I do have time to try it. But I feel like I'm not going to be able to run Premiere that well in the VM. Maybe
I don't know.
But I don't. Yeah,
it should be a really negligible performance hit if the VM is set up right. You might have to devote more resources to the VM than you would otherwise.
Yeah,
you may have to give it more cores and more RAM, but that's fine.
Which is fine. Yeah, that's easy. I'm not too worried about that. Yeah, I don't know. I guess then I'd have to really set up the file stuff.
Yeah, we need to get you the file share working between the two OSs. That's the big problem.
So I need to test Premiere. I need to do up the file share stuff that matters. Yeah, I mean, I guess really that's the only.
Can I ask something?
Yes.
Have you considered just using Resolve to do the edits?
Well,
oh wow, big sigh there. He leaned back. He leaned back away from the microphone and looked off the camera like, "Oh God, I can't believe we're doing this again."
We're doing this again. Well, yes, we could theoretically do this. I did learn Resolve back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, a couple years ago when I was editing, I was using Resolve. But now that I'm back to editing, I have not want to pick up Resolve again because like I know Premiere so well. Like I'm trying to get it back in the swing of just editing anyway. And so like trying to then relearn Resolve again, which I mean I'll probably be like a bike and be able to hop on it quick enough, but not like Premiere. Like I mean Premiere I just know.
Having done I've done a couple of videos with Resolve this year so far. Like I'm working on a Pragmata one for later this week. And it's a little frustrating. Like, it's weird sometimes that like things like, hey, shifting the length or duration of a clip is only available in one view and not the others. And like the metaphor that they have works really well, but it gets in the way. Like sometimes I just want a setting where everything's available. Like I want that edit bay to give me all access to all of the things, not just the things they think are important in that edit bay.
Yeah, well, and it's not even that. Is like this DaVinci, started off as a color correction thing. Then they added different. It's essentially multiple applications in one application. So I can kind of understand why some things are segregated in weird ways. But yeah, I don't know. I should try to pick it up again. Like the edits I'm doing are definitely basic enough that I think I could do it. Yeah, I guess I'm more worried about the dependencies. Like I have not tried to install it on Fedora. I know people, when I started talking about this months ago, people had like pointed me to some good walkthroughs on how to get it set up correctly. But yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, like really that's the only difference than CES. Like I know when CES, I went there and used Linux for the most part just fine with my VM setup. I think the file share was the thing that was kind of, slowing me down a little bit.
Yeah.
But especially if I'm just going to be a one-man band out there, I'm going to have zero time. Like, trying to troubleshoot something. So maybe I'll try to have a plan in place, and I still will have my Windows, drive. If I'm like, okay, I'm going to run into something and I literally just don't have the time or the effort.
Yeah. It's not like here's the thing. The thing people may not understand was when you're on one of these, like when you're at a convention like this and you're trying to put content out at the same time as you're going and taking all the meetings and seeing all the people and doing all the things that you need to do, like it's not worth losing sleep to make a point about Linux. Like I totally get that. And I'm going to give you grief about it, but I'm not really giving you grief.
Yeah. But no, I mean, theoretically, it's a solved problem right now, except for the video editing. So I have a couple things I can do. Try Premiere in the VM and try Resolve, in Fedora, and see how it goes.
I will say once that one X Windows satellite thing was fixed for Resolve, it runs really really well on my desktop machine. I haven't tried on the laptop yet, I don't think, but it's like.
I'm sure it's going to scream on the laptop too. Yeah, like the laptop's plenty capable. Except for, actually, now that I think about it, right now I have the NVIDIA GPU disabled in Linux so that it can just be used by the VM. So
it's fine. You're not going to notice a difference in the video encodes, I don't think. You might lose the 3 if they do 3 acceleration. You'll lose the 3D transitions and the 3D cleanup stuff, the CUDA based cleanup stuff.
Well, but also probably the exports, right? Like
the exports are hella fast, even when I'm using
on CPU.
No, when you're using the integrated GPU.
Oh, in the integrated GPU.
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
Okay.
It's been fine. I've been kind of shocked.
Interesting.
I was really blown away by how capable the machine is without, like, just like I said, out of the box without having to do anything. So
okay, all right. So there's that. I mean, I guess the other thing too is that maybe I bring a dedicated system that just sits at the hotel. Like, do I necessarily need a laptop per se? No, it's just easy because it has everything built into, you got the keyboard, the mouse, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I usually attach a screen to it and a mouse and extras to it anyway. So, maybe I bring this framework or whatever. I don't know.
That's a big thing to carry on the plane.
True,
or are you talking about the 16-inch framework? You're talking about the framework desktop.
I'm talking about the desktop, yeah.
Yeah, that's insane.
I mean, there's people who bring full towers, man. Some of these YouTubers are crazy.
I used to bring, like, in the olden times, before GPU accelerated video encodes, we used to bring full towers to CES and everywhere we went, and it sucked. It was bad.
Yeah,
we're past that now, man.
Yeah. Other than that, my old Linux ThinkPad, I still have not had a chance to try any games with it, but people are telling me that Proton does not, or this, there's gonna like whatever Proton needs to work, it does not work with this integrated GPU. But I mean, maybe I'll find something light enough that has a native Linux app or a native Linux version, so it's not using Proton. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really matter.
I think there's a native Linux version of the Farmer was replaced. Maybe this is your opportunity to get to learn a little Python.
There you go. Yeah.
Do that on the plane. By the time you get there, you'll be ready to go.
Does Steam database give you a list of games that are native?
I don't SteamDB, I don't know. Actually, I don't know who gives you the Linux native games, the list of Linux native games.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be a list out there that's like, oh, hey, it has a Linux native version.
So the thing I'll tell you is if you share your Linux directory between Windows and Linux, which everybody tells you not to do, but I've been now doing successfully for like 6 months, no downsides. Well, okay, there is an occasion.
To save on bandwidth, which...
The occasional downside is that... if Windows crashes or I don't shut Windows down cleanly, I have to reboot into Windows before I can use the Linux partition that the Steam directory is connected to. Anyway, minor issue. That's happened once in like the last 5 months. The Linux, when you boot back and forth from Windows to Linux, it downloads the Linux version when you're on Linux, and it downloads the Windows version when you're on Windows. So you could tell which games have Linux versions by which ones ought to always have an update when you boot from one OS to the other. But that's it. Yeah.
Well, there's got to be a different list out there.
Yeah.
Also, I still really want to reach out to Intel to get one of their Arc Pro cards in. To try out that shared GPU stuff, but I mean it's a side project.
Post Computex maybe at this point. I don't know. You have a while.
We'll see. Yeah. What are you working on?
Okay, so I'm going to keep poking at the OpenClaw thing on the Strix Halo laptop. I took the Nobara futzing laptop last week, which had Cache on it. That's the Dell. It's a Dell Lunar Lake machine that had webcam problems. And I spent a little bit of time with it because I wanted to see if the webcam stuff was working again. It was not. So I'm going to wipe that and put, I think, Nobara on that. I might actually just go to Endeavor or Manjaro. Basically, we talked about this a little bit last week, but I want to spend some time with some of the less rolling Arch-based distros. So, and then I had a note in here that I forgot what it was for until just before we started recording this. But I want to set up a GameScope session for my desktop PC so that I can log out of Neri and log into GameScope and the Steam desktop interface, and for when I want to play games, because I think there's real value there. I think the values of running, I don't want to be in a situation where I have to run GameScope before, like manually add GameScope to every single, the command line of every single game that I play on Windows. I mean, on Linux.
Sounds like something you would do though.
Says that sucks. People have talked about using, like, I think it's Heroic Launcher will do that automatically for you if you don't want to fool with Steam.
Oh yeah.
But I haven't looked at that at all. But it turns out I don't know how to make a new session, so I've got to learn about that, and I think that might be a project for next week or the week after. And then you talking about the DS and the GBA had me looking over on my pile over there, and there's a Zune HD sitting there with a dead battery, and
classic.
It turns
that
out
thing's worth money.
Really?
I don't know. I'd
anyway,
pay for it.
Okay. Well, it's kind of poorly supported on Windows, but it turns out there's a lot of Zune weirdos in the Linux community who really like that little guy.
Really?
Yeah. And
like for music or for other stuff.
For music, yeah. No, like, look, I don't know if you know this, but the kids love a dedicated music player these days. Like, they're all about that. They're all about that iPod life.
Well, now you got to get wired earbuds too.
I think it has Bluetooth, doesn't it? The Zune HD.
No, I'm saying the kids like the wired.
The
wired headphones
I'm not that much of a pervert. That's just weird. I can't do that. But there's this Zune SH release that is basically Zune software for Linux, and it's relatively straightforward. It seems like it's like all of the weird DRM stuff is generally broken, so that you can just do it. You can just use it, and yeah. So I first I need to find a replacement battery for the Zune SH, because the battery that's in there is completely, like, I think the Zune comes from a time before the hardware would hard turn off before it ran the battery all the way down, and it's bad. There's also open source replacements for the Zune software on the device, but that seems like crazy talk. So anyway.
I mean, it's crazy. I'm looking at the device. I totally forgot that was an NVIDIA Tegra in there.
Yeah, it's one of the first Tegras.
Yeah. ARM processor with one ARM 7 processor core and 6 dedicated cores. I'm sorry, one ARM 11, one ARM 7, and then 6 other dedicated cores.
Yeah.
Wow. Eight cores in your little handheld like that. 128 megabytes of Hynix SD RAM. You're rolling RAM. Dough.
But it's a terabyte of storage, I think, or a gigabyte of storage, rather. Maybe it's 512 megs of storage.
I'm not seeing it listed here, but yeah. I mean, it has lossless.
It doesn't have Bluetooth, though. I'd have to either add a Bluetooth dongle
straight wire, man. You'll be the coolest kid in the town.
Wait, here we go. Hackaday, bringing Bluetooth to the Zune. Perfect.
So I forgot this was running Windows CE.
Yeah, Wince.
Nice. just like the Dreamcast. Yeah. Okay. Oh,
yeah.
that would be fun, dude. Come on, dedicated Linux music playback device.
Yeah, the battery is the hard part. It turns out, because finding batteries for the old school Zunes with the wheel are pretty straightforward. Oh. Actually, there's one on AliExpress that just popped up for Zune HD. So there we go. Boom. That's probably fine.
It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it can't be worse than the one in there right now. Is it bulging?
No, it's not bulging.
Okay,
no. It's fine. It's fine. It's clean. It's really nice.
Can you does it have a battery bypass? Like, if you plug it in directly, will it still power on?
It does, but it thinks it's docked when you do that. And it doesn't have USB. It has a dock connector because it's from that period of time. So it thinks it's docked, and it's like, it's not great.
Oh.
Yeah.
Doesn't have USB. You know what? I'm sure there's a mod out there for it. Somebody did offer to give me that USB-C mod on the ThinkPad, and I was like, no, I'm good.
That's true. I'm probably good on that front. But yeah, I got to get... So there's a good iFixit guide for replacing the battery. It seems like I have to do a little tiny bit of soldering maybe. But it's just like 3 wires and pretty straightforward. So anyway. And I don't think the battery's glued, which is one of my. I don't like getting glued batteries off of the.
Right.
Yeah, that's scary.
Oh, it's so pretty though. That aluminum case.
Oh, and it's tiny. It's like itsy bitsy. It's like it's like a pack of gum.
It was so. The hardware was so good, man.
It was gorgeous. Like
the battery replacement is only moderate. It's fine.
I'm not worried about it. It's adhesed but not glued is my understanding from looking at this iFixit guide.
Oh yeah, this isn't scaring me. I'll do it for you.
No, I'm good. Thank you. But the thing is, I got to find the battery. The battery. I don't want to buy a battery that's going to burn my house down.
Well, you'd be surprised. There's a lot of batteries being sold out there. So
yeah,
you'll
that's
find
the
one.
problem. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I think we should wrap it up. We got more Linuxing to do, more compiling, more command line utility stuff, and yeah. So if you want to check out the video version of this, not only are we on YouTube at the Full Nerd Network, we are also do have a video version on Spotify if you're somebody over on Spotify. The audio version on all the RSS feeds out there, platforms. The Full Nerd Network has other podcasts like the Full Nerd Podcast about DIY desktop building news. We have Expedition Handheld, where myself and Russ from Retro Game Core talk about handhelds. Maybe go see this week's episode where I continue talking about actually using the PS Deco now that I set it up. And then Will has Brad and Will Made a Tech Pod as part of the Content Town
family
network.
Podcast. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Techpod.content.town. Good stuff. What else? Anything else we need to
That's all I
throw
got
out there? Okay, cool.
Yeah, Full Nerd. We do that every Tuesday. It's great.
Yeah. Love it so much. This is fun. Like I'm still like I know it kind of waxes and wanes and comes and goes kind of thing, but it's been a fun constant so far. It's to be like, hey, I'm a Linux guy.
We should do a check-in, like where we're at in a couple weeks. We also need to do a question episode. We haven't done one in a minute. So if people have questions, post them in the Linux question DBD questions channel of the Discord.
Yep. Go over to the Discord, DBD questions, get questions in there. We actually have a lot of them, so we're definitely get some more in. We actually got some to the email address, which I always forget to say, which is the full nerd at PCWorld.com. So we do have some DBD questions in there that I've neglected to get to, so we got to get to them.
I've also I've been thinking about doing like a Linux. Like I miss the audience interaction part of Full Nerd that we get when we do this show, which like we do this off a regular schedule it's hard to do multiple live shows that are scheduled every week. Yeah. But I've kind of been thinking about doing like a late night, like a 9 p.m. Linux chat stream where we just talk about computer stuff. So if people are interested in that, let me know, and I'll maybe see if I can set that up for next week or the week after.
That'd be cool.
But yeah.
All right, cool. Anyway, thanks everybody. Thanks, Will.
Thank you, Adam.
We will always be compiling.
Yeah.
I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.
Make it happen.